According to numerous reports, the Cincinnati Bengals have decided to franchise tag Tee Higgins. That is the plan. When allowed, when capable, they will tag Tee Higgins. But this is something we've talked about for a while now. We know this, but it is officially the lean by the Cincinnati Bengals and possible posturing to let Tee Higgins know that he will be in Cincinnati. And yeah, they could tag him and trade him. But remember that the tag is initially help them keep him in place so they can negotiate a long-term deal. The tag was created originally for quarterbacks and for quarterbacks alone. To grab a quarterback, hold him in place, work out a long-term deal. But now the tag is used across the entire league in all positions. Tee Higgins will be tagged according to these reports and according to logic, because we've said this would happen for months now. They will attempt to sign him to a long-term deal. If anybody thinks this is a guarantee that he stays, it's not. But it's a strong indication that the Bengals are trying to work out a long-term deal. If anybody thinks this is an indication that he's going elsewhere, it's not. We don't know. And the negotiations haven't happened yet. They're going to happen. They tried to in the offseason to sign this man to a long-term deal. Joe Burrow wants it. Joe Burrow commands it. And my prediction is he doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't go anywhere. He's going to be a Bengal, in my opinion, in 2025. The Fantasy Football Show breaking news show. Tee Higgins franchise tag is coming. Show begins right now. File on in.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday,
8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
The players called the franchise tag the prison tag. They call it the prison tag because it kind of imprisons them into a certain contract, a certain inability to maneuver and go get a long-term deal. They can't even go talk to teams. Now, he can request permission to seek a trade. And that certainly could be the case where they say, go on your way and go find yourself a new home and bring it back to us. We'll look at it. We'll look it over and we'll see what kind of draft capital we can cook up with the team that said they're going to give you a deal. The reason that teams do this is sometimes when they say, Go seek out a trade. Come back and let us know how it goes. The team oftentimes doesn't think the market value will be there for the player. And so they'll go out there and go, hello, will you sign me? Oh, no. Will you sign me? And in the case of Tee Higgins, he will get offers. He will have plenty of suitors. So the Bengals aren't really interested in that at this point. The Bengals are not interested in trade negotiation, especially led by Tee Higgins and his agent, until they've exhausted all potential, extension, talks. I do think the Bengals are a cheap organization. I do think the Bengals there's a problem here in that they may drag their feet and they may not give T what he wants. And then he's going to be holding out, obviously. He's holding out. Let me just make it abundantly clear. When the news breaks that Tee Higgins is holding out, we're already telling you he's holding out. We'll go live on it, make fun of everybody else, and say, a little late to the party, Bill, but he will be in holdout mode. That's probably the next live stream. But this doesn't really do anything. This doesn't change anything, doesn't change our narrative, our predictions. He's tagged because they can't just let him go. Of course they're going to tag him. Why wouldn't you tag him? If you don't tag him, he hits free agency. Like, this is not really that crazy of news. We knew he was getting tagged. A lot of people that don't know what time it is will say, oh my God, what's going on here? If he wasn't tagged, he would hit free agency. So he will be tagged. He can't be tagged yet. The tag deadline or tag start date and the range of tagging a player, announcing the tag, etc. That hasn't happened yet. That we're approaching March. We're gonna get cooking here soon. But the Bengals tag him to keep him, and they're gonna try and negotiate a long-term deal. The thing is, like, I know everyone thinks that the Bengals are too cheap to pull this off, and I think that they are too cheap, in many ways. They didn't sign Jamar Chase to a very reasonable JJ deal. He probably wanted $1 more than Justin Jefferson, and the Bengals said no. Now the Bengals are going to pay through the roof because Jamar Chase just had a triple crown. Receptions, yardage, touchdowns, led the league in all three. That's what Cooper Kupp did back in, 2021? And so this is a rarity. This is a unicorn. Jamar Chase is a pony, a unicorn with an absolute remarkable resume now to bring to the table. Different than before. I've got a triple crown. What do you think of that? I think that's about $2 or $3 million more per year. So his $35 million a year, at least is going to be 38, 37, 38, 39. Wouldn't shock me if Jamar Chase gets $40 million per year. And if the Bengals think they're paying 35, okay, we'll go ahead and pay you what we were going to pay you last offseason. Today's price is not yesterday's price. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Get a grip. And I hope to God the Bengals don't think they're paying $35 million a year for Jamar Chase. They're not. They're paying $35 million a year for Tee Higgins. No, Smitty, you can't pay Tee Higgins what you pay JJ. It's a ladder. It doesn't even really have to do with anything. He'll at least get 34, 33, 34. And it doesn't matter. As soon as Jamar Chase shatters the new ceiling, creates a new ceiling, shatters the current $35 million ceiling, creates a new ceiling at 38, 39, 40, then Tee Higgins making 33, 34 is not about JJ anymore. It's about, hey, Jamar set a new baseline of 40 mil, and now 33, 34 is going to tail it. And so it doesn't have to do with Jamar. Justin Jefferson maybe should have just waited a year. And he would have got $40 million a year. That's kind of the nature of waiting. You wait, like Brock Purdy. Everybody wants Brock Purdy to sign this deal for what? What might he get? 45 to 54, right? Something in there. Ridiculous amount. Something that I would not pay Brock Purdy. But Brock Purdy's going to get anywhere between 40, we'll call it 50 and 55, actually. It's probably what the market's going to command for him. His agent might want 60. And they might hold out for 60. If he ends up settling for 52, if Brock does wait a year and the Niners use that money to build around, which is what the Niners should do. The Niners should say, you're the last pick in the draft. I know you're amazing. We picked you, okay? But you're going to sit one more year. They don't have to pay Brock Purdy right now. They do not. He's under contract. He can play one more year. And if he plays one more year on his current salary, they could give him a 1-year adjusted, pay or something. But you earn it, then you're going to get not 52 or 54 or 55. He'll get 65 in 2026 offseason. So there's a pro and a con to signing now. Everyone thinks, you got to get the top dollar now. If you bet on yourself and you win, you're going to get $2, $3, $4, $5 million more per year. And so Tee Higgins not signing his deal last offseason ends up being a good thing for him, because he's likely to get $34, $35 million a year. Jamar Chase not signing last year is probably a good thing. He's going to get probably $40 million a year. I would say 38 at a minimum. So you're talking about at least 15 more years, $15 more million per total on the 4-year, 5-year deal, whatever it ends up being. And he'll probably get more guaranteed money. Tee Higgins is going to, in my opinion, sign with the Bengals. Why? Because Joe Burrow wants it. Because this team looks like its offense is on point. The only thing they need to do is work on the D. If they start dismantling the offense and then try and use that to build up the D, now they're going to have a hole in the boat in terms of the offensive side of the ball. There's no way that the team is the exact same without Tee Higgins. Tee Higgins stepped up big time at the end of the year. This is a better team, as it should be, as it would be, as it has to be, to have 2 elite wide receivers. And T is a low-end elite wide receiver, but he's an elite wide receiver. And I say that, or at least capable, because he plays for Joe Burrow. Like Tee Higgins in New England's not an elite wide receiver. He's a good wide receiver. Tee Higgins in Las Vegas is maybe not even a good wide receiver because he doesn't have a quarterback yet. But if Fields goes to LV, they trade for T. Like, then T's a borderline elite wide receiver because Fields would feed him. But in Cincinnati, he's a low-end elite wide receiver 1. He is. The situation's king. situation is always king. And Tee Higgins catching footballs from Joe Burrow as the team's number 2, sometimes the team's 1 if Jamar misses time or he's quadruple teamed and T steps up big like he did at the end of the year. The Best Ball Mania, by the way, promo code Smitty. Smash that link that I'm dropping in the live chat. The link's in the description of the video. Play underdog and get 50% match on your first deposit. The winner of Best Ball Mania had Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins, and Jamar Chase didn't even play because it only starts your top scorers. Tee Higgins is the one that started the week for him. He didn't even get to use Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase got benched because of the scoring, and so T can play like an elite wide receiver 1 in a Bengals uniform. I know we're human beings. We're fickle human beings, and we oftentimes like to watch a train wreck for whatever reason. It's messed up. But we're human beings and we gravitate towards, let's create some chaos, okay? You don't want chaos. I know you kind of want to see T leave because it might be exciting. He gets traded to so-and-so. So I'm telling you, the grass is greener. The grass is greener. He's better staying put. He's better in this Bengals uniform as the team's number 2, catching balls from Joe Burrow in an offense he loves and knows, from a quarterback he loves and knows, from an offense and a coaching staff he loves and knows. He's absolutely meshed well inside this organization, inside this productive train. And you take him off, you don't know what train you're putting him on. You don't know if you're setting him back. Is he going to get injured because he's too busy learning a new offense and he's kind of got some injury concerns anyway? Don't you want him right where he is? The answer is yes. I'll answer for you. His best location is not moving. His most productive fantasy football outcome is in a Cincinnati Bengal uniform. If he was to go elsewhere, give me Buffalo, give me Washington, especially long-term with JD5, and then you start getting into a kind of a crazy grab bag blender of scenarios like Green Bay and New England and in LV. Then you got, teams like the Steelers that might overpay for a second wide receiver, and you don't want that. It's Bengals, and if you have to, Washington, Buffalo, and then New England, Green Bay, a couple others. You don't want them going anywhere, though. I'm telling you. Phone lines are open.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Dial in, dial in, dial in. You don't want him going anywhere. I'm telling you. He's right where he needs to be. And the likelihood of him going somewhere is not as great as you think. Not right now. What has to happen is talks need to get ugly. What has to happen, he needs to want to have nothing to do with the Bengals. He's so bent out of shape. Then you start talking about, what do we do to trade him? What can we get? And if we can't get it, we're not going to do it. The power is all in the Bengals' court. I'm not saying he doesn't have leverage. I make a stink of things. I hold out, make this team like all off kilter going into week 1 like Ayuk did. But you're screwing yourself too, though. Ayuk made his own bed. Ayuk played like dog water until he got hurt anyway by holding out. And Deebo Samuel held out during his contract negotiation offseason. He played like dog water. Just absolute trash. You hold out, you play like trash, and you likely get hurt. You can say, now, Smitty, you predicted Ayuk to get hurt, but he tore his knee up. That was random. Was it? Or was his body in a position where he wasn't, where he needed to be? Like, you could argue 100 different things. And I get it. His knee injury was, all intents and purposes, random. It was not something where he tore a hamstring because he wasn't in shape. But he wasn't playing well. He wasn't where he needed to be. He wasn't quick on his feet. He wasn't able to convert and be where he needed to be when the football was being delivered. Like, he was behind on everything. And so injury is increasingly more likely for a holdout player, regardless of what the injury ends up being. And we don't want Tee Higgins to fall into that type of situation where he's holding out. So there is some distraction that gives him leverage where he says to the Bengals, look, I'm going to make your life a living hell. And I'm not coming back until right before week 1. The offense won't be in tune. Bengals are going to start off 0-3. And so there is a reason you need to potentially explore trade talks if the player in question is making your life miserable and is likely going to drag down your season. Because it's not simple anymore. You can't just walk back in right before week 1 and everything's hunky-dory. It's not going to happen. So there is leverage, but at the same time, there shouldn't be leverage because the team can say, look, we're not doing it. I want you to know we are not trading you. You can do this until the end you can push us till the end of the time. We can give you a 1-year adjusted deal. And they can do that now. Instead of on the tag, they give Tee Higgins a 1-year adjusted deal. If the tag is $26 million per year, the top five average salaries for the wide receiver positions, what the tag pays. So I believe it's $26 million. $26 million. They could say, we'll give you an adjusted $30 million deal. You can make $30 million this year and we'll figure it out. Like, this will be, we'll figure it out next offseason because they can tag him again. They can do something like that. And they'd be smart too if it got really ugly. And this is just the way it is. Barkley did this. Remember, Saquon Barkley got a 1-year adjusted deal. You could do stuff in incentives. There's ways to keep a player happy to a degree. But this is not something that you're gonna necessarily know now. And that's where I say that when the league year begins and free agency kicks off and Chris Godwin's the top prospect at the wide receiver position to get snagged by a team, Chris Godwin, teams that want Tee Higgins, they have to go after Godwin. Tee Higgins' availability, if things go astray, is so far downstream, Godwin's going right away. So you could play that game. I'm going to wait for Tee Higgins to maybe be traded, or I could jump on Godwin right now. So what does Washington do? What does New England do? What do the Pittsburgh Steelers do? What do all these teams do that need to jump on a wide receiver now because maybe Tee Higgins isn't even available?
Call into the show. Call into the show.
All right, we got a super chat here. Phone lines are open. Dial in if you want to discuss this topic and more. Hey, Smitty, do we know how much this year's tag would cost in Cincinnati? I believe the tag is 25-26. I'll get the exact number right here. I'll pull it up. Dre from Jersey, you are live. What is up?
Uncle Smitty, how you doing?
What's up,
Tee
man?
Higgins, I know we've been talking about him a lot on the show. A couple people in the comments in the section talking about Tee Higgins is a glorified wide receiver too. I know from watching some of your shows, talking to you a little bit, Tee Higgins is a wide receiver one, playing as a wide receiver two. Do you think it's best for him to show the world who he really is? Do you actually see him?
I just explained to you everything that I just said. His best play. Did you not listen to a word I said, Dre?
No.
I literally said his best place is staying in Cincinnati. I literally just went over that for 15 minutes. I don't think him going elsewhere is better for him. I don't. That's why I spent 15 minutes telling you why.
Why do you
because I just explained it for 15 minutes straight.
I just called in. You
okay.
Can't blame me. I just called it.
Okay. The thing about it, the non-exclusive tag is 25.69. Look, Tee Higgins is playing with Joseph Cigar Smoking Burrow in an offense in an offense he knows, in an offense he loves, for a team he loves, for a quarterback that goes to war for him, for a team that constantly has their number one wide receiver double, triple teamed, and he has big games. And like I said, Best Ball Mania winner had Tee Higgins and Jamar Chase. He couldn't even use Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was sent to his bench in his final last week roster because Tee Higgins exploded. He goes anywhere else, bro, he's not going to be fed the same amount that he's getting fed by Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow to Tee Higgins in this offense that he knows that he doesn't have to get accustomed to and learn. And for wide receivers changing teams, it is very difficult for teams to change for wide receivers to change teams. It is an adjustment. It's tough. It's not an easy transition. Year one's always kind of a rough one, usually. Not always, but usually. And this guy's going to go to a very wide receiver needy team. He'd be lucky to go to Buffalo. That would be a good location. In Buffalo, he could be the same. He could be. But that's a big if, because we just saw Amari Cooper, who I don't think is completely done. I think Amari Cooper had. He might not anymore, and we'll never know. But he had at least one more year. Amari Cooper was not washed when he went to the Buffalo Bills. He just got lost in the shuffle. And he may still have one more decent year left. Buffalo is tricky. You don't know for sure. Could he be as good in Buffalo than he is in Cincy? Maybe. But it's a big if. There's an adjustment period. There's a lot that goes on. He's an injury-prone player. You throw him into a situation where he's got to learn all this while trying to stay healthy. I'd rather him just work on his health, work on getting into a point where his hamstrings are stronger. A lot of these players work on that in the offseason. We don't need him trying to learn a whole new offense. I'm telling you, I'm not saying that Washington couldn't be as good or not. Maybe a slightly more advantageous for the future, but we're talking about a couple years out because McLaurin's still there. This is the best location. For 2025, there's no better location. For 2026, 27, 28, you could make arguments that there's even playing fields maybe. But this is not where he goes. This is not where he goes somewhere like New England and becomes some sort of wide receiver. Hold on. It's not like he goes to New England and becomes this top 4, top 3 wide receiver. I don't see it happening. He's better off in Cincy than New England. He's better off in Cincy than Las Vegas. He's better off in Cincy than the Chargers. He's better off in Cincy than the Buffalo Bills for year one. He's better off in Cincy than he is in Washington for year one. Buffalo, Washington are the two locations. Maybe New England long-term if things start to turn around real quickly and May looks like an absolute gem, which he could. Those are all situations that could rival it for the future. But not now, bro.
Yeah. I agree with you. You know, I agree with you. There are some locations that are better. Personally, I hate to see him in Buffalo. Amari Cooper, established veteran guy, had a good career. He struggled in Buffalo. I feel like in Denver, too, he might struggle with the play calling with Sean Payton and his crazy playbook. I don't know. But there are some locations I agree. You know what? Year one, maybe. But I definitely think down the line he'd be a great fit for like a team like Washington. You know what I'm saying? So
would he be a great fit? Sure. No one's arguing that Tee Higgins, for the team's sake, isn't a great fit in New England, a great fit in Washington, a great fit anywhere he goes. I think where we get ourselves a little bit too excited is just in the change is going to be good, or the perception of. We'll see you later, Dre. The perception of. I didn't mean to yell at you, Dre. By the way. I just spent 15 minutes and you asked me, isn't Tee Higgins better off going somewhere else? It's almost like, were you watching? I guess you weren't. Okay, so Dre, my fault. But Tee Higgins, there's no scenario where he's getting the rapport he has with Joe Burrow immediately established with another team. He's just not. Amari Cooper was proof of that. I don't know that Cooper has much left to prove our theory right. Amari Cooper might suck this year and we'll be like, yeah, I guess he was bad. We'll never know, unfortunately, but I have enough logic and experience to tell you that Cooper had a little left in the tank and it wasn't even tapped into. It's not Cooper's fault. He was lost in the shuffle over in Buffalo. He could still be, and Cooper is one of the better wide receiver options available. I would say it's Godwin. And Higgins isn't going to be available yet, but obviously Higgins won. But if Higgins is not available, Godwin, and then maybe Amari Cooper next. I think Amari Cooper is somebody I would bring in if I was the Washington Commanders and I don't get Godwin. Something like that. Phone lines are open. Again, Dre, thank you for calling, bro. Hopefully Dre doesn't think I'm mad at him. tag. The tag is coming down. The tag is. We knew this was coming, and it's not official yet. It's not official yet. Teams in NFL can tag players on what's the tag date? I'll find the date. 4 p.m. Eastern, February 18. So tomorrow. So beginning 4 p.m. Eastern. So I'll put this on screen. This is why the announcement's leaking out now. But here's the announcement. And so beginning February 18, which is tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, teams may designate franchise tags on players, ensuring that they will be with the team for the upcoming season and fully guaranteed salary. The window closes on Tuesday, March 4. So teams have until March 4 to do this, but they oftentimes do it early because it's just smart. Like, you know, you want that player to start, you know, thinking about these negotiations now. You don't want the player to think they're not going to get tagged and you waste all this time. This puts the clamps on the situation. So we'll talk about this later. Breaking clickbait clan. What's clickbait? Breaking news clickbait. Are you suggesting that this is a clickbait topic? Is that what you're trying to? I know you're not trying to suggest that I do clickbait. I know you're not trying to suggest that. You're talking to somebody else. I know you're not talking to me. We'll see. I'll keep monitoring the chat to see what your answer is. What's up, Rock Out? And then I'll go over to Colin after. Colin, mute yourself if you could. Keep the mouth breathing to a minimum. Rock Out, you're live. Go.
Yeah, I think you pissed off Draven.
What?
I think you pissed off Draven.
I pissed off Draven?
Yeah.
Why? What's Draven saying in the chat? I haven't seen Draven in months.
I mean Dre. That's what I meant.
Oh, Dre. Why? Why did I piss off Dre? Is he in the chat?
No, on Higgins.
Oh. What do you got, Rock Out? Hit me with it. What do you think happens?
I think he'll probably stay with Cincinnati, but it'll be pretty good in Washington.
Yeah, of course he won in Washington.
Well, what's his ADP right now?
Third round, sometimes second. I mean, it depends where you're drafting. It depends on a lot of things, but I'll pull up the ADP data on Underdog. Underdog has Tee Higgins right at 24.7, which is the 2-3 turn. He's going right at the 2-3 turn. So second round, third, top of round 3, bottom of round 2. All right, hang tight, Rock Out. Let me swing around the phone line. Think of a question, and I'll come back to you. Colin from NC, North Carolina. Colin, you're live.
Hey, how you doing, Smitty? Just on Tee Higgins, I do think he'll stay with the Bengals. And given that, where is your comfort zone for actually drafting him? You may have mentioned this. I just tuned in now. I know you said he's going about at the 2-3 turn. I've seen that in the underdog drafts that I've done so far. I'm personally not comfortable taking him in 2 and probably not 3. Where would you take him at?
Yeah, it's a great question. And to be honest with you, it fluctuates. But if he's in a Bengals uniform, I think he's fantastic in this mid-third to top around 4. That's where I'm extremely comfortable taking him. You might get that more in your home leagues. You might get that in your non-best ball, your buddy leagues, your work league, your grandma league, your family league. I think a lot of sharks, are going to draft him at this 2-3 turn right here. And I'm not saying I'm not intrigued by that. I don't know that I do that in my home leagues if I'm doing just 2 or 3 of them. Let's say you have a work league, you have your grandma league, and your family league. I don't know that I'm even, if I'm you, I don't know that I'm even drafting him in one of those at the 2-3 turn. In best ball, he's an amazing third rounder. because of the nature of the way he plays and how best ball works and functions. The fact that Tee Higgins goes into your lineup, if he plays great, and if he doesn't, and you have another wide receiver, let's say you have Naylor. Naylor's the wide receiver in Minnesota who pops off once in a while. Let's say he has 100 yards and T has 40 yards. Then Naylor goes into your lineup. So, like, best ball's perfect because Tee Higgins has huge pop-off games. And if Chase ever goes down, he's even, he's obviously a wide receiver, top 7 wide receiver, almost guaranteed. And when Jamar Chase is triple teamed, he's a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. He's not even a low-end wide receiver 1. He can play like a top 5 wide receiver. So he's perfect in best ball. And I think in best ball, I do take him at the 2-3 turn, especially if I'm cuffing him to Joe Burrow and you have this stack going on. But I would say that I have 2 different approaches for Tee Higgins in best ball and in non-best ball. Non-best ball, give me him in 3-4. And I do think you're more likely to get him in 3. You're probably never going to get him in 4, really. But I think you're going to get him in round 3 a lot in your non-best ball. I think your grandma leagues, your mom, your cousin, your Aunt Edna, your work league, I don't think they're astute enough to take Tee Higgins high enough. I think it's going to be, his ADP will be in round 3, and that's comfortable. In best ball, swing away. But not in every league. Do it in strategically in like 10% or 11 or 12% of your leagues. He gets hurt. He's injury prone. So you don't want to have 50% of your best ball leagues all tied to Tee Higgins. But like 10%, that's fine.
Right. No, I'm with you there. The injury risk is what also worries me about him. I do like JSN better than him as well. I know you've covered that a lot. So, I mean, if it was between him and JSN, like in a buddy league, I'd probably take JSN. How well does the best ball ADP translate into, the buddy leagues, the actual, Yahoo Fantasy typically?
It's pretty close. The difference will be like in that example. That's one where it's going to be maybe a half a round apart. The wide receivers are oversaturated in best ball. Although I think we might see a different change going on in best ball. We kind of led the way last year. I'm not saying we influenced the industry. I'm just saying we're ahead of the curve. We were going robust RB in best ball last year while everybody was going wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. Like, there are people that draft like 7 wide receivers in a row without touching a running back, a quarterback, or a tight end. We're starting to see a little bit of a trend of it kind of balancing out. It'll probably still lean wide receiver a little bit more than normal. And the reason for that is it's 0.5 PPR. The wide receivers, it's unfortunately an infectious trend where if you start witnessing the wide receivers getting ripped off the board, you panic and then you see it cascade and everybody starts taking wide receivers. So the difference in best ball ADP and non-best ball is merely and mostly around that wide receivers are ranked a little bit higher. That's pretty much the difference. So you might, that's why you see Tee Higgins go higher in best ball in the second round, as I just alluded to, versus, third where he belongs in non-best ball. So home leagues, buddy leagues, you'll just find these wide receivers. Really, I can kind of dial it in like this. The third round wide receivers, a handful of them are in round 2. And then that means that the second round running backs fall into round 3. That's really, if I had to define best ball and non-best ball ADP, that's it. Because Kyron, Bucky, Breece Hall, these guys are all in round 3 in best ball. In non-best ball, I venture to say Breece Hall, Bucky, Kyron all linger in the 2-3 turn or in the second round. So it really is, the second and third round is the big difference in its wide receivers.
Yeah,
right.
That's interesting. That definitely does change the dichotomy of things. Maybe Ladd will be more reasonable and regular.
Maybe.
I don't know, but it certainly does change things.
All right, Colin, appreciate you. Later, bro. Call back if you got another one.
Thanks.
This one is for Backwards Matt in Ohio. What's up, Backwards Matt?
What's up, Smitty? How are you, man?
I'm good, bro. What do you have backwards today?
Okay, I agree with Tee Higgins needs to stay in Cincinnati. For the simple reason is that, are you willing to give up because he's been there, 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 years, either way. He's got relationships there that when he goes to another team, he got to start all over for what? An extra $3 million a year, $2 million a year. No matter where he goes, he's going to have to start over. And then on top of that, he may not like it. Look at Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is not happy at Miami. Yeah, he's making more money there, but I think he misses KC. But the way I look at it is that why gamble on that when you know what you got? You got close to winning the Super Bowl. Why not just ride it out and just see what happens?
Money. And I'm not saying that this kid isn't logical, and I think he is. And he's played 5 years in the Bengals uniform. And I agree with you that logic would tell you you're very likely to be unhappy. That's kind of what I was saying. The grass is greener. You know, it's grass is greener for the player. The grass is greener for us as well. Like I said, we're human beings. We're a sick human being population where we want to watch this chaos and train wrecks and all this stuff. It's disgusting. And here we are wanting Tee Higgins to go to another team. Just somehow, some way, we all feel it. Like, wonder what it would be like. And as soon as he goes, we're all gonna be like, shit. It's not as good. It's not as good. I don't like it. Put it back. Put it back. Yeah, I think that part of him might see this, okay? Part of him might understand this, but part of him might not. Part of him might be like, I'm tired of being disrespected by my damn owner who looks like he's asleep when he's talking to me. And he doesn't appreciate me, doesn't want to pay me. You got to understand that he's got probably some anger toward this man and this man alone in terms of not paying him. I don't think he has any bad ill will toward anybody else. He loves his coaching staff. The question will be, will Tee Higgins say to himself, yes, I can make another $1 or $2 here? And maybe not, bro. That's the problem, is he's got to put up a stink, create a problem, almost make it irreversible, like get into a disgusting, feud between him and the organization to the point where you can't even put the pieces back together to go even find out if a team will pay him. So he doesn't even know the answer to it, and he wouldn't know the answer to it unless he's requesting a trade, they grant permission for a trade, and then he finds out what he's worth. So it might come to that because his agent might be driving the train, right? And his agent might say, T, I've got this. I'll get your money. You got to trust me. And T's going to go, okay. And this is how a lot of agents get fired in the middle of their negotiation because it goes badly and they don't like the way the perception is. Look, you ruined my reputation, by trying to get all this extra money. So we'll see what Tee Higgins does. What I do know is the biggest bargaining chip or the biggest advocate in favor of Tee Higgins getting enough money to say screw it is that Joe Burrow has said over like a dozen times publicly, I will do whatever it takes to keep Tee Higgins and Jamar Chase and the band together. So there's a really, really good chance that Burrow is going to make this happen. And keep in mind that Joe Burrow wants it, so that's already an advantage and makes this thing trend in the direction of Tee Higgins staying just by Joe Burrow wanting it. Joe Burrow wanted Jamar Chase drafted. How did that go? He got drafted. How did that go? They've been balling out. So
exactly. I
think it's going to work out, but you never know. Money is a funny way of turning things sideways. So we got to find out how much control he's giving his agent, and if his agent is going to go crazy and T steps back, it could get ugly. I hope Tee Higgins is handling this, a little bit more than other players, would be in terms of keeping their hands in the fire.
Okay.
All right, bro.
All right, Smitty, man. Appreciate it.
All right, later, bro. 2 super chats, and then I'll get back to the phone lines here. Rockout sitting there simmering on the phone line. Rockout, get your question ready. Hey, Smitty, do we know how much the tag is yet? 20. What I put on the screen? 25.69 million. So that's what the tag is. Appreciate you, Calvin, for this first super chat. Second super chat from Calvin is now that I think about it, Tee Higgins has all the leverage here. Cincinnati can't afford to have both wide receivers without contracts for 2026. He doesn't have all the leverage, Calvin. As I said, he's got some leverage, but the leverage he has is making it messy and making their season start off slow, 0-3, and, they're not in sync, and he's going to be off kilter all, like Ayuk and Debo. That's the only leverage he has. He doesn't have all the leverage, but he does have some leverage. Players do have leverage in creating chaos and havoc. And again, Joe Burrow wants this, so there's that advantage that he has. But really, it comes down to a very cheap organization that didn't pay either one of them last offseason. So we don't really for sure know that they're going to open up the checkbook for both of them to the degree that makes both of them happy. But you also got to understand that they won't be without either wide receiver all offseason. One of them is going to get inked quickly, semi-quickly. Jamar Chase will probably, it's tough to say. If Jamar gets $40 million a year, that increases Tee Higgins' value. If they can sign Tee Higgins to $32 million per year, that helps kind of keep Jamar Chase away from 40. So you kind of think T would be smarter to sign now, but if T's like, I'm waiting until Jamar signs, I'm not taking 34. And they're like, what in the hell? You're not taking 34? I'm waiting for Jamar. Jamar gets 40, I want 35. I'm only going to be $5 million tailing Jamar, is what T will probably want in his mind. Think about it. He's going to be like, I want to tail Jamar by $5 million. Jamar gets 40, I want 35. If Jamar gets 39, I want 34. Like, that's what I think he's going to try and do. It could certainly get messy. But hopefully it doesn't. Odds are there's no way this thing's smooth. You know what I mean? Like, there's almost zero chance this thing's going to be smooth. And the messier it gets, the more likely they are to trade him. And the Bengals will look to do this, I think, within now to April's draft. So they have until near the end of April. Because any sort of trade they want to make is going to include draft capital. Now, I will tell you this. The moment the NFL draft passes, his leverage goes down 50%. Minimum. Once there's no now draft capital, a trade is not even attractive. The Bengals will say, bro, you're playing on the tag. Because a team, it's like a ticking time bomb. It's like a countdown. When the draft begins, the leverage for the player goes out the window. Because the team's wanting now draft capital to win now. If they can't get now draft capital for Tee Higgins, they ain't trading him. He's staying on the tag. So he's got a timer as well. A pressure to get a deal done before the NFL draft. The Bengals will never win a Super Bowl like this. Like what, Jolts? They haven't even begun. You don't know what they're going to do. You act like this is already done and over. They got two players they may ink, and you're saying they're not going to win a Super Bowl like this. What are you talking about? You're assuming that they haven't signed and rejected both ideas of extending both players. They won't win a Super Bowl like. Look at this trash. What are you talking about?
Take a big laugh.
Give him a chance, bro. Thank you, Calvin, for the double super chat wattage, my boy. Rock out. What else you got?
As far as the Bengals not winning the Super Bowl, it's like half right, half wrong. As far as what they need to focus on that defense and then stack up that offense with those two wide receivers.
Yeah. Use the draft capital to improve the D, any remaining funds and smart maneuvers in the offseason free agency to improve the D or offensive line, whatever. It's enough. I mean, it is enough. You can build through the draft. Look at Cooper DeJean at the near end of the first round. Look at, and that was clear. That wasn't like a ambiguous, like, oh, that worked out great. No, we knew Cooper DeJean was going to be a monster. Like, you could find amazing talent in the draft. All you need to do is draft smartly. And the Bengals can definitely fix their defense, at least enough that it satisfies fantasy worlds. We don't want it to be the best defense in the league. Otherwise, the Bengals will dial back all their passing and production. We want them to be just good enough to stop, defenses or offenses at, a certain point in the game. But we don't want them to fix things too much. We want this to be, as close as to what it is, so we can get Joe Burrow gunslinging every single day.
Yeah.
This one from Judy, $5 holler. Hey, Smitty, off topic, but Superflex Dynasty question. Trade Bigsby to the ETN owner for a 2.4 and future third. Worth it? If it's a rookie pick, I don't know. I'd almost say I need to know who's available and on the clock. I would say I like Bigsby a lot. I'm going to say no. I think Bigsby, and you might have a lot of people say, I love the second and third round rookie picks, and the 2.4 is not bad. But I think Bigsby, he might be a moon man. So Bigsby's, it's a tough topic for me, because I think Bigsby's, he has a little bit of that. There was a point where when Bucky was rising and Bigsby was rising last year, they were kind of on the same, unknown, what is this going to look like level. And then Bucky took a huge leap and Bigsby didn't. But I don't know that was Bigsby's fault. I love Bigsby. I love ETN. I think one of them is going to become Liam Cohen's new Bucky Irving, because the same guy that created Bucky is now in Jacksonville as the head coach, Liam Cohen. So there's a good chance that Bigsby has tremendous value. I'm going to say no. And I think he's thinking the same thing. That's why he wants to do it. Make him overpay. And the way to do that, Judy, is to say, yeah, you know what? You could even say I was interested in trading Bigsby, but close the door and say, I think he could have a breakout year. I think this could be the Bucky. I don't know that ETN's the Bucky. ETN feels like the Rashad White. And they're going to go, no, ETN's the Bucky Irving. You go, no, ETN's the receiver. He's the best receiver of the two of them. I think he's Rashad White. I think Bigsby might turn into Bucky Irving. And it's either going to scare him into trading you ETN, or he's going to overpay like a madman. So use it to your advantage. I'm sorry, Rock Out. What else you got?
But as far as Tee Higgins, I just hope it's not like a big holdout if he's trying to hold out and all that, because he already has hamstring problems.
Yeah, he's definitely not somebody you want holding out with injury risk. Yeah, but yeah, he probably will. I don't think it. I think that the NFL draft is kind of. It's not like the Niners situation. I think it's the NFL draft is going to be the deadline for him, because, like I said, the Bengals are going to tell him no. We're not interested in trading for. Unless they could do a player trade later, but, they want the now draft capital. So, and also keep in mind, Godwin will be gone. Amari Cooper will be gone. All these wide receivers are going to be gone. There's no more market for the Bengals to replace Tee Higgins in terms of free agency. So, T's going to be out of his leverage will dwindle as the NFL draft approaches. So. And like I said, there's also other alternatives like, hey, T, I know you don't want to play on the tag, and I know that you don't like our offer. What if we give you a 1-year adjusted deal? You're going to make more than $26 million a year. You'll make 30. And then we attack it next offseason when we have more, space, and the salary cap goes up 20% every 2 years, and we'll be able to figure it out. All that stuff could be looked into too. It's not just one-dimensional situation. All right, Rock Out.
Yeah.
Call back if you got another one, bro. Appreciate you.
All right, cool.
All right. Thank you for your super chats. Calvin with the doubles. Judy, appreciate yours. Hopefully Judy got my response. I'm just confused. Can the Bengals afford to tag Higgins? Yeah, they can. Look, the money is movable. The tag is, or the cap is fake. To a degree. There are some roadblocks. There's only so much you can do. If you're extremely over the cap, it does restrict you, but you can maneuver. This is math. This is these are accountants and attorneys sitting there looking and combing over details. Paragraph 5 of contracts, and they say, what can I do with paragraph 5? Can I move this? Can I move that? Can I turn this into a bonus? You know, turning money into a upfront signing bonus alleviates there's so much you could do. There's not a doubt in my mind that they can figure all this out. And Joe Burrow's contract alone gives them the ability to bring in Tee Higgins and Jamar Chase at the money amounts that they want. Not to mention, you kick the can down the road, you backload contracts. You make in some cases, you can make a deal longer so that you have more maneuverability later to kick the can down the road again. In Patrick Mahomes' contract, it was a $500 million 10-year deal. It was a 10-year deal. That was almost unheard of. Patrick Mahomes signed a 10-year deal, and that gave them multiple points and landmarks within the contract to kick the can down the road and renegotiate. The longer the deal is, the more flexibility you have to renegotiate to make space for the team. So you do a 2 to 3 year deal, there's not a lot of maneuvering you can do in that contract in terms of creating space later. But if it's a 10-year deal like Mahomes is, everyone didn't know what they were talking about. People report on this had no clue. So anyway. All right, people, appreciate you. Probably going to call it a show here now. We'll be back for the 8 p.m. show, or unless more news breaks. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Tee Higgins to the moon. Joe Burrow to the moon. Pancake stack.
The stack above all stacks. It's time to drop the pancake emojis in the live chat.
People are getting burrowed left and right, and people are going to remember it.
Get burrowed.